Hey everybody, John Franklin Reviewer here, and I'm back with another anniversary film. This anniversary film is going to be 20 years ago, August 21st of 1998. This film came out. And the movie I'm talking about is Blade, starring Wesley Snipes as the main character and Stephen Dorff as your villain. So, what exactly is this movie about? Blade must stop Deacon Frost from him and his army to become daywalkers just like Blade. Technically not like Blade, they're not going to be good guys, they're still going to be blood-sucking bastards, but that's what they really want to try to do, and that's pretty much the most of the story in this movie here is what Deacon Frost wants to do. So what exactly did I really enjoy about this? Well, the first thing I got to mention is the first 15 minutes or so of this film here. Well, the film actually starts off with a man and a woman driving down their street. Next thing you know, boom, just like that, they're actually at a nightclub. So they're going into a nightclub and all of that. Well, it actually turns out, and you can kind of tell, especially if you know something about this character, and even if you're walking in blind, you probably have an idea what this film can be about. Well, it turns out it's a vampire nightclub. Well, the woman is a vampire who decides to bring her food, this male human. Well, what happens is at one point, he actually looks like he's going to be food. Well, of course, just like every action movie in the world, Blade makes it there in the nick of time to save that guy's ass, and he pretty much just goes downtown on these fucking vampires. The first, like I said, 15-20 minutes of this great action, he's just killing everybody left and right because that's all they are. What they do is pretty much you kill a vampire, they turn to ash. There's no dead body, that kind of stuff. And I really like the way that it was, especially the technology back then. When you killed a vampire, if you stabbed them in the heart, shot them, whatever, that their skin would pretty much melt. There's their skeleton, and then their skeleton turns into ash maybe, say about 5 seconds later, something like that. And even back then, I'm even going to bring this up right now, even back then, I think that this is one of those kind of movies I think would still do well today. Yeah, the only problem is of it being a Marvel, they would find some way to shoehorn it into this. But I got to talk about Wesley Snipes himself here. He was born to play this character. I don't think anybody else could have done as well as he did, at least in this first one. The sequels, I'll talk about them when I get to them later. But he was really good. Another character I got to talk about, actually I guess I would say maybe kind of his partner in crime, or his helping hand might be a better way of saying it, is an actor named Chris Christopherson who plays a character named Whistler. Now he's just this old chain smoker, but I really love the interaction between him and Blade. I mean, every time those two were on screen together, it was pure gold. And I don't think I've ever used that word yet. This might be my first time saying that. I love these two characters. Whenever they got to bicker against each other for whatever reason, I love them. Now, when I get to the villain here, Stephen Dorff, Deacon Frost. Just like Blade, I don't think anybody else could have played this character as good as Stephen Dorff. But I really enjoyed him for who he was. I mean, he was really intense when he needed to be. He was funny. He was enjoyable, and I just liked everything about Deacon Frost there. It just seemed like it just worked out. Now, another character I got to talk about, I would probably say was his right-hand man, Frost's right-hand man here, is a character named Quinn. Now, forgive me, I don't remember the actor's name. But I really got to say, he's the comic relief of this film, and I really, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed that character a lot too. I mean, at least like 3 or 4 or 5 times Blade tries to kill this character, and he never dies. I kind of call him kind of the Jason Voorhees of the vampires. It seems like this guy, like I said, supposedly died like 3 or 4 times in this movie, and he keeps coming back. And I thought that was actually kind of funny, but he was good when he needed to be. There was like maybe 1 or 2 scenes he tried to be serious, and maybe, I just kind of in one ear, out the other with me. The pacing of this movie was really, really good. Now, just like in Act 2, always like one or two times you're going to have a slow part. But I felt like that with some movies, they'll drag it out for whatever reason. It's like, oh, you could have shortened that by 5 minutes and the film would have been a lot better with that dramatic part of it. This one, it was kind of a quick in one ear, out the other. I felt like even with the one or two slow parts they have in this film, they do such a good job with it there. I got to give them a lot of credit. Directing was really well. I loved the script for sure, to throw some of those quick things out there. Now, what did I not like about this? Really, it's only two characters, and that is it. One of the characters is a character named Karen. Now, the only way that she really gets involved with Blade and Whistler is that she's a doctor at a hospital. She gets bitten by Quinn, pretty much maybe right after the nightclub scene. He ends up supposedly dying, and he ends up going to the hospital. He wakes up, he kills a doctor, a male doctor, and he ends up biting her. Well, Blade comes back to try to kill him for the second time. So like twice in like maybe 25 minutes, he tries to kill Quinn, and that made me laugh on that too. But her character, she really didn't do a whole lot. She was pretty bland in this. Once or twice she does help out Blade, but honestly, I felt like if they didn't have her in there, and it was really just about Blade and Whistler, and she wasn't even in there, or she dies, with the male doctor, I really would have been fine with it if she lived or died in this film, honestly, take it or leave it. But then another character I feel the same way was, and I don't know the character's name, I don't even know the actress's name, but there was this blonde vampire who was like Stephen Dorff's, maybe girlfriend, mistress, who knows who she was in the film. She really only does like maybe one or two cool things throughout this 2-hour movie, but then the rest of the time she was the same as Karen. She was pretty much bland. There was really no point of having her in there. Honestly, if you didn't have these characters in here, or very little of either one of these characters, Karen dies right away, Blade ends up killing the blonde woman or anything, and Stephen Dorff needs to, I keep saying it that way, but Deacon Frost has to go get revenge on that because Blade killed his girlfriend or something. I think the movie would have been a lot better for me, but it still was a great movie. Bottom line, this is a terrific movie with a great cast. Yeah, maybe minusing those two I mentioned, but everybody else does a great job in this movie. All the supporting characters. I mean, there's really nobody in here I would say was, like I said, horrible. Those two I mentioned were just bland. They were okay. But everybody from like Wesley Snipes to Stephen Dorff to even like there's a brief scene where there's like a little girl who gets kidnapped by Stephen Dorff, and him and Blade have like this supposed like really good guy, bad guy moment, which was okay and all of that. Oh, I did forget to mention one more thing. Sorry, so I did my bottom line. One other thing that bothered me, just popped in my head right now, was that some of the vampires were able to kind of be in the sunlight, even though they're not supposed to be. They would just blow up and die. Well, they would use sunscreen, and I actually thought that was pretty cheesy. And that's where kind of like I mentioned about Blade and Frost talking to each other. It's in the daytime and all that, and it was just like that kind of, I forgot, kind of bothered me too. So it wasn't just those two characters. I almost forgot about that too. Now, when I first saw this movie 20 years ago, I loved this movie. I would have won a perfect 4 stars in this movie, but finding those little bit of flaws in the movie here shouldn't really take away too much. And it doesn't take a whole lot away, but my rating for this movie is going to be 3.5 out of 4 stars. Still definitely a good movie. If you've never seen this movie after 20 years, this is definitely a recommend to check out this film. So have you seen Blade? What have you thought about it? Give me a comment down below. And I do have a question for any comic book geeks out there. Has Blade ever been an Avenger? If he has, give me a comment down below. Now, if you like the video of this one and my previous ones and like to see future ones, just give me a subscribe on that little, click on the bottom down there, and also please like. So thank you guys so much for watching another anniversary movie. This is Blade, this is 20 years ago, and as always, stay awesome.